First of all, as a Cubs fan, I'd like to acknowledge that the season is probably over. Seeing the team is 38 and 44, 4 games out of a playoff spot now, and has been jumped by teams like the Pirates, who are 2 games back, Giants are 3 games back, the Diamondbacks are 2.5 games back, Nationals are 3 games back. But as more importantly, someone who's a Mets fan, I am very optimistic about the season and about the Mets' chances to make the postseason. Right now, the Mets are taking on the Houston Astros, a team that this season they've had 2 very similar stories. Teams that seemed dead in the water early on have battled through adversity and now are looking like some of the hottest teams in baseball that are about to stun the baseball world. Obviously, the Astros made it to the ALCS the last 7 years, whereas the Mets have had no postseason wins since the 2015 NLCS. That being said, this year they look like very similar teams that who knows what directions they're going to go in. But I'm optimistic. The Astros were down to 12 and 24 in the beginning of May. In the beginning of June, the Mets got down to 24 and 35. Both teams now find themselves entering the series at 500, 40 and 40 for the Astros and 39 and 39 for the Mets. I think that this will be a very fun series between two teams that seem dead in the water and are now some of the hottest teams in baseball. And obviously the Astros are my least favorite baseball team, so that makes things even more interesting because of how much I hate them because they cheated to win the 2017 World Series. First of all, I think the Mets are a little bit hotter right now. Yes, I know the Astros are coming into this on a 7-game winning streak. And yes, I know they swept the Orioles, but they also got to play the White Sox and the Rockies. That's not really going to convince me that they're any good. You know, like, it's like, yay, we beat the White Sox. The White Sox suck. The White Sox could be a historically bad baseball team. And I wish I had my computer to film this so I could show you this. This will kind of be on vlog form, which I know gets fewer views, though I'm just declining as a YouTube channel. Please subscribe if you're watching this. I was literally at 183 on St. Patrick's Day, peaked at 186 early in a month. Now I'm down to 182. Like what's been happening? But maybe I'll get a good YouTube short over the summer on one of my trips to bring my channel back from the dead. Anyway. The White Sox and Rockies, again, are really trash teams. The Orioles, yes, they're pretty good, but they have not been, hot recently. And yes, I know they beat the Yankees in a series, but come on, the Yankees are in a really bad slump that's going to pretty much kill their season at this point. The Mets, I know they haven't faced great opponents, but, they got a big sweep over the Padres. And that's important too. Looking at which, tiebreakers the Mets have secured versus which ones they haven't. Obviously, the Nationals, a lot of work still needs to be done, but sweeping them is a good start. For the Padres, the Mets only need one more win over the Padres to secure the series, and the Padres need to sweep 4 games with them in order for them to win the series. Same with the Pittsburgh Pirates, because the Mets have sweeps over them. The Mets already secured the tiebreaker over the Cubs, and they have also secured the tiebreaker with actually they might have secured the tiebreaker with the Cardinals, but they are guaranteed to at least not lose it on the first tiebreaker. That being said, they did lose a tiebreaker to the San Francisco Giants. Diamondbacks, again, at 2-2, so that'll be a fun 3-game series as to who claimed the tiebreaker. But right now, the Mets actually are not doing bad in the tiebreakers. Now, obviously, the Cubs, the tiebreakers didn't even matter. But even if it did matter, a big downfall for the Cubs last year in 2023 was that they were a team that was really bad. They were 45 and 51, but then they battled for adversity, reached 76 and 64, but then they suffered a late season collapse. But them not having a tiebreaker over the Diamondbacks, over the Marlins, over the Reds, that really haunted them. And of course, Brewers, when the NL Central seemed to be in play, they did not have the any tiebreakers in their control. The only one they had in their control was the San Francisco Giants, and even that seemed to not really matter because the Giants collapsed even harder than the Cubs did. And again, I'm pretty confident this Mets team will not be a team that suffers a collapse in September. I think they're either going to collapse earlier on, or if they do falter down the stretch, they'll at least make the playoffs, and it'll be like a 2022 situation. But I think this Mets team could go hot. There's a few reasons why I'm so optimistic. First of all, Carlos Mendoza is actually somewhat properly, handling these games well. We're also having more players having OPSs above .8, which is obviously, important. Batting averages are improving. Some of our stars that have been doing poorly have now been doing better. Pete Alonso still sucks, and I'll say that much. But we've been seeing better play from Francisco Lindor as an example. He's been playing, a lot better. We've been seeing, seeing better play from JD Martinez. He's been playing a lot better. We've also been, we also saw, instead of Brett Beatty, now we have Mark Vientos, who seems like he's rising through the ranks and is a really good player. Obviously, we still have that dead weight of Jeff McNeil on our team. Francisco Alvarez seems to really be the heartbeat of the team. And again, losing him in that game against the Dodgers was really bad because the Mets were 12-8 when he left. And then after that, they fell all the way down to what was it? I don't even know. To 28-36 before he came back, or something like that. I think 28-36 when he came back. Maybe 27-36. They were really bad without Alvarez, and I think that they look a lot better with him being able to play. Now, obviously, there's still more question marks about the Mets that, kind of have to swirl around. Because the Mets are having a June bloom, unlike last year where they had a June swoon that pretty much killed their season. This year, the Mets are doing really good in June after a horrible May. That being said, some questions, still need to be asked, like the quality of the teams they've been beating. I still think the Mets had higher odds at the postseason when they were at 12-8, just because, at that point they had just won 5 series against teams that came into the series with a winning record. And, maybe now they're not doing as good, but even now they're still pretty good. Like, at first you beat the Cincinnati Reds in a series, and I get that they're pretty much falling out of it too, but they're only, I think, 3 games back of a playoff spot. You have their series against the, what's it called? Reds. The series against the Royals? Or maybe that wasn't the next one. But they did play the Royals, and they did beat them in a series, and they seemed like they could be having a good year and maybe make the playoffs for the first time since 2015. You then have the series win over the they start the Pirates, and then you of course have the series win over the Dodgers, and then they just began to really just slump hard after that. But I still think they look, like the quality team they've beaten, it hasn't been great. You look at a lot of the stuff, like they lost to the Giants and Cardinals, again, teams that are still hovering around the 500 mark, although Cardinals and Padres both began to take off. You look at the then when they split with the Cubs, get swept by the Tampa Bay Rays, yes, they win the series over the Cardinals, and then it's just like, what the hell happened next? I was fine with them only taking 2 out of 7 when in their big series against the Braves and the Phillies, because those are two really good teams, under the assumption the Mets could maybe sweep the Marlins and then get back to 500. Instead, the Mets lost 2 out of 3, including a disastrous game on May 18th where they had a 9-5 lead in the middle of the ninth and they blew it. You have them getting swept by the Guardians, losing 2 out of 3 to the Giants, getting swept by the Dodgers. Then the Diamondbacks, when they split a series, they easily should have been able to win. The Mets looked really bad, and it wasn't until they actually swept the Nationals and then split with the Phillies that they began to look more legitimate. And even then, they had a loss against the Miami Marlins. So, of course, then you have to wonder, is the Mets season over? It wasn't when they began to get momentum back on their side when their season looked to be possibly more alive. And even then, the Mets have really just blown chances that they just absolutely should not have blown. The Mets are in a very weird spot right now, I think. And obviously, yes, well, Padres probably aren't the most convincing, although they are a pretty good team right now. And Texas Rangers, Cubs aren't the most convincing. Obviously, sweeping the Yankees will be very convincing. And now they got to play the Astros, which is, again, is a series that should be important because the Mets do have a tougher schedule at the end. But if they can get momentum and be one of the scarier teams, I think the Mets are putting themselves in a position where they're now beginning to become a team that, nobody wants to face. Nobody wants to face the Mets because even though they don't look great on paper, they're a really hot team. And they're just like a bulldozer coming right at you because the Mets, I think it's their 4th series in a row that they won. Marlins, Rangers, Cubs, Yankees, yeah, the 4th series in a row that the Mets won. And they already look a lot better than they did in 2023, and who knows, maybe this team could make the playoffs as a lower seed and then make a run for it. We'll have to see what happens.